I am Dr. Ben Newman, and this is Ask Dr. Ben, where I'm going to try to use my experience as a coronavirus researcher to answer your coronavirus questions. We could talk about other stuff, but it always seems to be coronavirus, so that's fine. All right, next question is from Chris. How you doing, Chris? Let's see. I'm in the medical field and was fortunate to receive the vaccine earlier than most people. Great. Yeah, that's very nice. And thank you for taking the vaccine when it was offered. This should go without saying, but yeah, that's the right thing to do. And you did it, and congrats. Let's see. My second dose was early January. Fine. I think my second dose was early February. Yeah. On the previous post, you've estimated the vaccine efficacy will be around 6 months, and it probably varies from person to person. But what we have now is so we had the coronavirus conference, and it finished a little over a week ago, I think. And at that conference, we had a lot of updates on this. And it actually looks as though the sort of vaccine longevity news is better than I would have estimated. So that's kind of cool. So, what did we learn from the conference? Sorry, related to vaccines. All right. The first thing was that after vaccination, your antibody levels and T cell levels and everything drop off pretty sharply. And so, before, that's the only data we had. And so, draw your dotted line down, 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 down. And yeah, the end point would be somewhere around 6 months to a year. But what the numbers actually do is they drop down and then they level off. And they drop down only very little once they've hit that leveling off point. So that was kind of cool. And we didn't know that before. And with new data come new conclusions. So it looks as though in vaccination may last you a year or a little more than a year. I would say after a year, it's probably worth getting the booster, but there was good news there as well when they looked at people who had gotten the virus despite getting vaccinated. So they were vaccinated, but not enough that it actually blocked infection. They noticed that the vaccination followed by virus actually gave them a great big boost. And these people had tons of immunity, which would presumably be a lot stronger and prevent subsequent infections. So getting another booster is probably going to be a similar result. There were actually fairly similar results between natural infection and vaccination in the studies that were presented. And again, that's something that we didn't know for sure going into this. So again, that's just very good news, right? Yeah. Basically, it's just a race. Build immunity as fast as you can, however you can. The safest way to build immunity is definitely vaccination. If it's my choice, I'd go for one of the RNA vaccines. Yeah, they just seem to work a little bit better. Not a ton better, but just a little bit better. So there you go. Let's see. Are there any other parts of the question that we missed? So now that I'm approaching 6 months after the vaccination, wondering how to proceed, probably just coast. When it gets to a year, then I would say let's take a booster. Or once they get the variant-specific boosters ready, I would go for one of those. So other things we learned at the conference that I'm now remembering and should have remembered before. Getting a booster against the original strains seems to actually improve your chances of responding to the variants, which was pretty cool. And also there was this neat thing, and it was only like preliminary partial data, so we got to take our grain of salt here, but it showed that the antibody specificity continues to improve. So like your antibodies get better over time. And the only way that I can think that they would do this, and this is what the people presenting the data, this was their hypothesis, but it needs to be checked out, is that they think there are some populations of cells, populations of white blood cells, that don't just make a protein, show it for a day, and then throw it away, which is what we kind of thought in the past, because that's how most cells work. They think there's a little population that make it, show it today, maybe put it back inside, take care of it, polish it up, show it tomorrow, show it the next day, and keep showing that protein that they've made for maybe a couple of months. That is a possible way to explain how the T cells improve over time, B cells improve over time, and antibodies improve over time, which is all really cool and really nice. is another good reason to get vaccinated, and it looks as though the vaccination is going to be better and last longer than we could have predicted. And you know what? I'm happy to be wrong on this particular side. Over and over in the outbreak, we've taken too many chances and taken things for granted and ended up messing up over and over and over and over again. And so I would tend to err on the side of extreme caution. And you know what? If it turns out we took more precautions than were necessary, I'm okay with that, because that gets us to the end of COVID-19 faster than if we did not take precautions and messed up. So that's where it stands. You're in a pretty good position and you should be all right for a while, but come around next Christmas, see if somebody puts another vaccination in your stocking, and that's about the right time for it. Thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben.